Welcome to HAR on YouTube. Today we're going to look at a painting that's a treasure because of the painting style. It's a very good example of the Ngor painting style. Ngor, Ngor, refers to Ngor Monastery, which is in between. It's actually in between Shigatse and Sakya, closer to Shigatse, and then just south across the river from Nartong Monastery, the famous Kadampa Monastery. Now, this painting is dated to the 16th century because we have inscriptions on the front and the back. And we know that it was commissioned by a fellow named Lachok Senge, who was an abbot of Ngor Monastery. And we know the artist's name was Dorje Tsetan. And Lachok Senge lived between 1468 and 1535. And so this painting is likely done during the early 16th century, up to 1535. And Lachok Senge is very famous for commissioning many, many paintings. And in the Rubin Museum of Art, we actually had acquired a number of them, and it was actually on a list of artists which we were very interested in acquiring and collecting. And back at that time, back at 99, 2000, 2001, it was very rare for people, museums or private collectors, to be collecting based on artists that we thought were good, collectible, or were important in the history of Tibetan art. But Lachok Senge was one of the commissioners which we could identify due to inscriptions. We didn't always know who the artists were. So we collected a number of Lachok Senge. And there's a great number of them known in museum collections and private collections around the world. So now the subject of this painting is not the main focus here. It is a fellow named Buddhashri. He lived 1339 to 1419. He was a Sakya teacher because Ngor was not established. He was a Sakya teacher, and he was a teacher, one of the teachers to the founder of Ngor Monastery, Ngor Chen Kungu Zangpo. So this fellow's name is Buddhashri, or Sangje Pel. He's often known by his Sanskrit, the Sanskritized form of his name. The commissioner, Lachok Senge, didn't know him. So this is obviously meant to be a kind of a devotional painting, representational of a lineage. Now, the lineage is what's interesting here, because at the very top center, we have a Shakyamuni Buddha, and to the viewer's left, we have the Bodhisattva Maitreya. And then to the viewer's right, we have the Acharya Asanga. And the lineage, which descends alternating from right to left, descending down the two sides to the bottom, is of the Yogacara tradition of the Bodhisattva ordination. A lot of people don't realize that the only vows in Mahayana Buddhism that are new are the Bodhisattva vows. And within the Bodhisattva, under the Bodhisattva vows, there are two types of sort of ordination. There is the Madhyamaka that comes down from Manjushri and Nagarjuna, and then there's the Yogacara comes down from Maitreya and Asanga. And this painting is depicting the Yogacara tradition of the Bodhisattva ordination. Very interesting. The Yogacara ordination can take a long time. It can take 2, 3, 4 hours to give. The Madhyamaka ordination can be as short as 20 minutes or a half hour, depending. And both of these traditions, of course, are continued in the Sakya school as they are in the Gelug and Kagyu and Nyingma. Now, what we have also at the very bottom is we have two deities depicted. One seated figure, white in color, and this is white Prajnaparamita from the Vajra. It's from the Hevajra Tantra, it's mentioned, but then it's described more in the Vajra Panjara Tantra. So it belongs to the Hevajra cycle. And then we have white Vajravarahi, and this white Vajravarahi is meant as a wisdom increasing deity. And she holds a Vajra, should hold a Vajra in the upraised right hand, her proper right. Both of these figures are for wisdom increasing. Now, when we look at the overall structure of the painting, we see that we no longer have registers. We don't have lines separating the figures. That's because we're now into the early 16th century and we're beginning to lose that very rigid register system, or the very early Indian composition style of overlapping figures with possibly some registers at the bottom. But we're now moving into a more open painting composition, and then we have more negative space. Now here we have blue negative space that divides or in between the figures depicted, and then there's small little gold flowers. A little design work has been added, but it's not completely filled as it would be by Nepali artists. So here we're seeing a Tibetan painting still following a little bit in the Nepali style, which Ngor Monastery originally in the 15th century was famous for, but we're now moving away from that. And then by the time we get to the early 17th century, this style will be completely gone and replaced by the floating composition style that we have up to the present day. So, painting of Buddhashri, commissioned by Lachok Senge, and early 16th century, and a wonderful example of this Ngor Monastery style. So you can press like, you can subscribe, you can join HAR on Patreon, and you can also make a donation. On the homepage of Himalayan Art Resources, we're a not-for-profit organization, and we are volunteer-run. Nobody gets a salary. So we survive entirely to keep the website up and to keep it advertisement free. We depend on your donations. So thank you very much.